Yay! Hello.
We're live. It's so weird in StreamYard. It's my first time.
First time.
Yeah.
Hop in your StreamYard cherry. Here we are. So happy to be with you here, Catherine. I want to do a little introduction for you and then maybe have you introduce yourself a little bit more. So this is Katherine Oster. She is in Saskatchewan, Access Consciousness Certified Facilitator, and just like amazing woman who I love to chat with, like on the regular. We've gone through so many conversations in the short time that we've really known each other. I think it's only been like a year or two.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long and it's so amazing. Time is totally irrelevant.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. I was super stoked when you said that you'd hop on with me and chat. And especially about this topic of are you willing to have your back? Or what is it called? What did I call it?
Having your own reality in the face of everybody else.
Upsetting.
Yeah. Upsetting everybody else.
And I'm so excited to see where we can go here. But I want to just open the floor to you to introduce yourself if there's anything else that you want to say about you.
Yeah, I'm Katherine Oster. I was so excited when Leah asked me to be on these chats with her. I was like, hell yeah, let's do this. And I've been a certified facilitator with Access Consciousness since 2016. So I can't believe I'm going into my third or fourth facilitator training here. And man, it has been a wild ride. And so I'm just going to dive into this topic, having your own reality. What does that even freaking mean? Like if you're a person who's just hearing this for the first time, you're probably like, what does she mean, my own reality? Like, what is this even? And for me, what that was for me was actually discovering myself. Mm-hmm. And so I stumbled across Access Consciousness in 2013. A series of events. My father-in-law died of a heart attack in February of 2013. Helena, my daughter, was born like 2 weeks later after my father-in-law died. And then my grandma died like 5 days after Helena was born. And those people were very important to me in my life. That was I want to call it a tragedy, but it's a gift at the same time because it led me here. I started looking for what this life is about. If it can just end in a snap of a finger, what are you even like? What is all of this about? And losing those two people led me to booking a medium reading, actually, with Glenise Hughes. And so that was maybe like 3 weeks after my grandma died. And that was the most, that medium reading, I had never met Glenise before, actually. And she only lived about an hour and a half from me. And that reading that she did gave me such a sense of peace. Mm. I knew that my grandma and Norbert, my father-in-law, and my grandpa were with me. I mean, I knew it before, but I just knew it even more. And it was so peaceful. Yeah. And Glenise was really just getting into Access at the time as well. So she had maybe been a certified facilitator for a few years. So I kept going onto her website, and Access bars kept catching my eye. And I wanted to book a bar session, but I didn't want to because I wanted to figure out what this thing was before I even booked it. And I wanted to have a long distance bar session. I know, right? Like after I had been in person for a medium reading, I was like, oh, we can only have a distance bar session, or can we do a distance? And Glenise was like, no, it's really better if you come in person. And so anyway,
before you go on, I just want to note that there may be people on here that have never ever heard of Access before. So can we just kind of just give them a snippet of what that might be?
Yeah. Thank you for that. So Access Consciousness is just this whole set of tools, questions. It's a way of inviting you to be conscious and create your life or your own reality, which is where my story is leading to talking about today. So the first class in Access Consciousness is Access Bars, and it is just it's an energetic body process It's you literally lay down, somebody pulls energy from different points on your head, and the points on your head are associated with different parts of your life. There's one for money, control, creativity, relationship, your body, all of these things. So that's access bars. And if you want more information about access bars, and if you want to maybe find a bars class, you can go to accessconsciousness.com, and then there's access bars there. Anyway, so had my first bar session. It was amazing. So much changed for me. And then I took a foundation class. So that was about 6 years ago. I took my very first foundation class. And what that really invited me to was discovering myself. Because before Access, I knew there was things that made me happy, but I didn't even really know what happiness was for me, because I was a person who was so focused on making sure that other people around me were happy and comfortable. And I lived my life based on other people's happiness. And if I made them happy, then that meant that I could be happy too. But the thing was the other people never really chose to be happy. Or if they did, it was for such a short amount of time. And so, yeah, so I lost myself in all of that. And I didn't realize it until I started taking these access classes. And then I started discovering myself and what my reality I'm actually a pretty happy, easygoing person. But I didn't have a lot of that before. So ask me a question. I'm at the end of my story right now.
I love it. I love it. So we've gone into this topic a little bit, just like on a personal level of like, what does that really look like to have your reality in the face of upsetting others? And one thing that like access for me has just been like a set of tools that work somehow. And they can sound weird or wacky, but like I'm more about like what's really working. And one of the interesting things, the concepts that have been introduced to me is like willingness to receive energies that when you start looking at it, you realize how maybe dynamically you're totally unwilling to receive, certain energies. Like for me, receiving somebody's intensity or anger, like would actually feel like I could feel it in my body and it was really uncomfortable. Or, like receiving people's judgments. And I think that we all have a capacity to this to some level, like every single person. And what we do with that, like, are we at the effect of our awareness or our sensations, or are we aware of our awareness, and then can we like lean into that as more of a capacity? So like, whoa, like, so for instance, if I choose something and I perceive somebody coming at me with judgment, and it is rarely ever words, it's rarely words, it's like, you walk into a party and you can feel everybody, or just like even one-on-one, you can feel the energetic dynamic. And receiving people's judgments was, very uncomfortable. And I was making them real and, all of that. So I'm curious, like, what do you know about what's beyond the refusal of people's judgments? Like, could we talk about the willingness to receive different energies and people's judgments? And I want to say hi to everybody who's here. I see Cindy said hello. Whoever else is here, I can't see you unless you comment in StreamYard. So we're happy that you're here. And Katherine, do you have somewhere to go with that?
Yes, totally. So when I took my first foundation class, it was like all of these things, all of these crazy things we talked about in the foundation class was everything I always knew was true, but seemed like way too crazy to, like, nobody ever talked about it. So the first class I took, it was like such a sense of lightness and space. It's like, oh my God, I'm really not as fucked up as I thought I was. Like, it was so exciting. Anyway, So one of the pieces of information that I got that gave me so much more space and understanding of how people behave is that when people judge you, it has nothing to do with you.
But how could that be true?
I know. It feels so real. And it has everything to do with what they have going on with themselves and what they are not willing to receive. And people try to control you with their judgments. So,
blowing people's brains out right now.
right? Every time I say it too, I'm always like, oh yeah, right. So for example, me being a people pleaser, if somebody was judging me as something that I was doing as wrong, I would stop it and I would change and try to find the thing that would make that person happy. And in that is where you lose yourself.
Because if you buy it as real. If you buy
if you buy it as real, that's where you lose yourself.
Yeah, I explore this nugget just a tiny bit more too, because I've realized I just had this epiphany, like I was writing a blog yesterday. And it was like when I was really little, I would calibrate and do that thing where I'd be like, oh, I could just add this, or I could just change this much. And I know it would like melt your world. But when I was little, I did not buy it as real and true. I was just like, oh, I can just like play with this, until I did buy it as real and true. And then I was at the effect of it. So, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can't buy it as real and true. Like you can use it, but like, yeah. Mm-hmm. So go on.
Yeah. And so for example, my husband and I, so we've been together for 20 years. So we've stayed married through all of the changes that I've chosen. And our relationship has changed so dynamically. And there was a time where I did all the things I could do to make him happy. And then when that started changing a little bit, he got a little uncomfortable. And he's not really the kind of guy to get verbally angry, but he would just not talk to me. Like he would go silent for like a while. And that was his way of manipulating me out of something that I was maybe choosing that was making him uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I had to really explore and develop a strength in me to know that what he was choosing was his way of coping or dealing with being uncomfortable. And I would, and at first I was his puppet and I would dance and I would try to do all these different things like, oh, I'll make you lunch, or, and I would always end up apologizing for myself before. I would always be like, I'm so sorry. There was one night where he didn't come home. Like he went out with friends and he didn't come home, and it's fine, but I was worried and he didn't even let me know. And I tried phoning him and there was no answer. And I just knew that they probably got carried away and ended up, as boys do, passing out or something. And it was probably better that he didn't drive home, but he didn't tell me. And so I was really pissed in the morning when he got home. I was so mad. And he ended up turning it around. And I ended up apologizing to him for being mad. And I was like, what the fuck is sorry. I'm like, what the bleep is going on here? I didn't even do anything, and I'm the one apologizing because it was uncomfortable for me, for him to be angry, for him to, and so I'm like, this needs to change. Like, yeah. I'm changing this now. And so I had to develop a strength to not cave to his silent treatment, and still have myself and still have fun in my life, whether he was choosing to talk to me or not. And it was really uncomfortable. And I'm actually really grateful for him for doing that, because it really allowed me to know that I can still choose me. And so some of the tools that we talk about in the foundation class is like using the clearing statement, which is this weird set of words, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. It sounds crazy. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. And if you want more information, you can go to theclearingstatement.com. But that was something that I would keep going over and over in my head. I memorized it.
Mm-hmm.
So then when I would want to go down the path of apologizing or judging myself, I would just start saying the clearing statement. So I had to give my brain another tool, a distraction from judgment with the clearing statement. And that started changing things.
And it
Just,
forces you to get really present. Like, I
yeah.
wonder what he was inviting you into. That's kind of something I've been looking at too, is how you can be grateful for, especially the sticky stuff, because it can really mirror back to where you're functioning from, and then you get to choose beyond it. So,
Yeah.
so you use the clearing statement. That was like one of the things that helped you get out of that. Were what what other tools did you lean into during that time to have you, like to maintain
Yeah.
a sense of you in the face of like all that uncomfortable energy around you?
Yeah, so the clearing statement, just repeating it over and over. And then another tool that I really focused on and still do actually all the time is to energetically expand out.
Mm-hmm.
And so even right now, just for people that are listening live and now and in the future, if you just close your eyes and if you take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, if you just allow your energetic space to expand out to fill the room that you're in, and then I just envision I inhale, and then when I exhale, I expand out further to
Yeah,
fill the house and continue to expand out beyond that.
yeah,
So energetically, you become the size of the ocean, bigger. So you can it just pulls things apart energetically and it allows you to be more space. So one of the analogies that I use is like when you're contracted. So in the beginning, and a lot of people are just used to being energetically contracted because when you are energetic, you're the size of your body or even smaller than that, maybe energetically. When you go around, you're energetically contracted. Other people around you are comfortable. I mean, you're probably invisible to them. They don't even see you. You're just contracted. But you are like the size of a puddle. Now, and when there's a rainstorm, the puddle gets really affected by the raindrops when you're a puddle, right? But when you're the ocean, when you energetically expand out to be the ocean,
yeah,
a raindrop has no effect on the ocean. And in fact, the ocean affects the whole weather system of the world.
yeah.
So, energetically expanding is another simple tool that you can take away today and start practicing with right away. And I would just have in my head expand, 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 expand out. And then when I would just take a deep breath and exhale and expand. Now, this whole thing about energy, too, did not make sense to me in the beginning because you can't see it. Like, I couldn't see myself expanding, right? I just had to trust
Can't be
that
real.
what
Can't be real.
yeah, I know, right? Like, of course, it's too freaking easy. That's the other thing. These tools are too easy. You literally ask and think about expanding, and you're energetically expanded.
Mm.
And you just have to start to trust that because you can't see it or feel it or touch it, that it's actually true and you are changing energetically. So, energetically expanding. When you are at an event, when you're out shopping, there's so much going on right now with COVID and everything. If you can be energetically expanded, you start to transform energies in your field. So that person who is maybe feeling frustrated and angry will walk by you because you are a different energy than what they're used to. You might change things for them. They might actually have a different sense of relief just by walking by you.
Yeah.
You don't, and if you smile at them through your mask or
I know, it's
whatever.
so hard. I'm like, why would you guys?
I know.
The next time, I'll probably with her. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but like she was ahead of her time. Like, I'm always trying to smile at people with my eyes.
I know.
But a smile can do a
Me
lot.
too.
So the
Yeah.
interesting thing that's coming up for me, like there's a couple different directions, of course, that I want to go. But like the energy of expansion is also the energy of interesting point of view, I think.
Yes.
And so we can dive in, put a pin in that maybe, and we'll talk about that in a second. But really not having judgment in your energetic field, you could say, of yourself or other people, like you become irresistible. Like, because people, I think, try and stick you with judgments, control you with judgments, right? But if you're not judging yourself, like that's where you look at anybody who's like really successful or powerful or anything, and oftentimes that magnanimous energy, and not all the time, but like when it's there, is like the absence of judgment of themselves. And like if they can have that with themselves, then they're likely having that with other people, like letting people choose. And that, yeah, go ahead.
In fact, it's probably easier to get out of the judgment of other people than it is to get out of the judgment of yourself.
Yeah. So how do you go there? Like, what would you suggest?
That interesting point of view thing. So, interesting point of view thing. So that's a tool that you learned about in the bars class, probably, I think, is interesting point of view. I have this point of view. So when you have a point of view that something is right, or you have the point of view that something is wrong, you're in the right and wrong reality. You're doing judgment. And it's interesting because when you judge something,
if you think something's right or wrong, you're doing judgment. Is that what you just said?
Yes.
That will blow up your world. Just chew on that for a day.
Yes, exactly.
Years, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
I remember hearing Gary or Dane or one of them. Gary and Dane are the founders of Access Consciousness, but they said if you judge something, it's actually your positive judgments or your judgments that things are right that limit you the most, because you will not actually receive anything greater than what you have judged as good or right or correct.
Wow.
Yeah. And then when you have negative judgments or wrong judgments about yourself or things, you are more likely to actually change them. Like, we learn to change things from judgment. If you judge yourself enough, you will finally make a change. That's not actually true. It's like this trap we get locked in. So what it really invites the change to show up is being an interesting point of view about it. So it is acknowledging that the judgment you might have about something of being right or wrong or good or bad is just an interesting point of view. And how you start to play with that tool, interesting point of view, is with every thought, feeling, and emotion that passes through your head, you just keep saying over and over, interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. Interesting point of view, I have this point of view. And if you say it over and over, you literally will start to become a meditation. Walking, talking, meditation. Yeah. And what else was there? I forget. Okay. Ask another question.
Well, what popped into my head, we're talking about so many different things.
I know.
Like, you're going to get blasted, not with one tool, but with so many.
Yeah. So we're just going to get a whole day one of foundation in like a half an hour.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, like, blow your socks off. No, the concept of choice and like really choosing and having change, like beyond judging yourself into change. The idea of talking about choice came through my head. So I wonder if we want to go there. Should we dare talk about choice?
Well, when you are in interesting point of view, when you can see something or a person behaving, how they're behaving as just really interesting, then you have the ability to choose what works for you in that situation.
Right.
But when you are buying into the person's behavior as a judgment, so let's just take like somebody having a temper tantrum. Okay. So that's how toddlers control their parents so brilliantly, because the parent is often not willing to be judged as a bad parent, or they don't want to be wrong, right? They want to be like, you want to be the best parent you can be for your kid. But at the same time, if the kid knows that you're not willing to be judged as a bad parent, they will, in the grocery store, if you say no to them and they want a candy bar or chips or something, they will have a temper tantrum. And if you can be an interesting point of view about their temper tantrum and about all the people that are judging you about your kid having a temper tantrum, then you have a choice. And you don't have to give in to your kid. You can actually choose what works for you, and you will be able to know what's going to work for you.
Yeah, I can think about that situation like in the two scenarios, like just energetically in my body and functioning from caring about judgments of others, and like how can like literally contracted, like, you know, when I'm stressed, my contracts and like shoulder contract. I think that that's perhaps a common thing, but like you can imagine those situations and the way they feel in your body, and one feels expanded and centered, and like the energy can just pass through you rather than like I'm thinking of like a car with like no shock absorbers, you know, like energetically your body can just like like, and if you were to like snap and yell or just not do anything about it, like, and not have any you know, like, because you know that everybody else is having their judgments about everything else. The analogy of the ocean and the puddle is really
Yes.
brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Like letting energies pass through you. Well, what else, Catherine? Is there anywhere else that like is popping to go for, or yeah,
I think that's good for today, actually.
we did up last.
What's that?
We just, yeah, like I mean, we explored
Yeah.
many different avenues of this, and
Yeah.
for me, this is a it's not the only thing I look at, but it's something I pretty frequently look at, is like having my center, having my reality in the face of like what other people are choosing.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could just do like a recap or um, like a synopsis of like, yeah, how to do that. Like,
Yeah. So the first okay,
yeah.
the first thing, the clearing statement. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. If you have a person who's going into some crazy around you or about you, or you're in a crazy scenario, you have to go to, well, you might not have to go to family supper anymore, but if you do, and you know how families get. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Go to theclearingstatement.com. You don't have to have it memorized. You can even just say poc and pod, pock and pod, pock and pod. Or I know another person who would just say bed, baths, and beyonds. Like it has the same energy. You don't have to know. That's the thing about energy, is you don't have to know the words.
That clearing statement, she said, and
Yes.
you don't actually have to say it out loud. You can totally, actually, I would suggest not.
No, yeah, don't say it out loud. No. Just in your head. Just
In
say
your
it in
own
your
head.
head. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the clearing statement.
The clearing statement. And energetically expand out. Practice building the muscle of energetically expanding. Now, for myself, it's like a muscle you have to actually build. Like, you know, when you're working out, you have to strengthen the muscle. Well, it's like strengthening your energetic muscle of being expanded. So you're maybe only going to be able to maintain that expansion for a few minutes, but just remind yourself to expand out again and expand out again. And you might, even if you practice this for a few days, you might feel tired or you might feel different. And that's okay. That just means that things are changing. Don't go into the judgment that it's wrong or that you're doing it wrong. It's like, what if it's just change?
Yeah.
And And then interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. They're doing that thing again. Interesting point of view. Yeah.
Yes, and the one thing I just want to like the cherry on top, or something to be aware of, perhaps, is that when you start choosing more for you, uh, the people around you that are used to you fitting into their life in a certain way may get really upset.
Yeah.
And
so just use interesting point of view.
So just use interesting point of view because, yeah, like for me, the interesting point of view, or I say IPOV, IPOV in my head, is like it's that same ocean expansion energy of like, oh, it actually dissolves all the judgments. And what I realized too, and this could be like topic for another day, is when I'm not willing to let whoever be upset with me, then I'm really committed to like controlling their reality and not actually giving them the space of kindness to have their choice.
Yeah.
So an interesting point of view is like actually from a space of kindness to like have your own choice and to allow other people to have their choices too. And that is a muscle to build, and it will give you like endless possibilities available in your life. Like it's really it's a surprising path of discovery.
Very.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Katherine, do you have anything coming up that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I am facilitating an online foundation class starting on this Saturday, November 28th. And so if you've taken a bars class and you're ready for the next jump into the foundation, you can join me online if you want. We'll pop a link in the group for that.
Yes.
And I'm also doing an online program coming up. It's called Generate Round 3. And it's a daily series where every day there's a live video. And what we're going to dive into this month is intimacy. So it's actually 5 weeks of cultivating and strengthening intimacy with you. And so having your reality, what is that?
For this topic.
Yeah, the 5 elements of intimacy: honor, trust, allowance, vulnerability, and gratitude. We're going to dive into that. So,
yeah. And I just want to plug you as a facilitator because I absolutely love you as a facilitator, and the space of non-judgment and joy and gentleness, but potency and kindness, all of it in one, like I just adore you as a facilitator. So, and each facilitator is very, very different. So Katherine Oster is her own flavor.
Thank you, Leah.
And I like it. So if you liked this, like, please go check out Katherine's offerings. We will definitely post them in the page. And yes, thank you so much for attending now or in the future. And I hope that this was a contribution to everybody watching. And go gather and use the tools. And next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Leah, for doing this. Okay.